Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Alaska Weather Show on this Thursday, May 6th, 2021. And if you'd like to call and get a recorded forecast, you can do that at 1-800-472-0391. Or better yet, go online, weather.gov/Alaska, and there's all kinds of information there that you can look up. Well, taking a look at what we have coming up here in terms, one note I want to pass along to our friends viewing on K2 360 TV. There's program change notice. There's going to be a new airtime starting Thursday, May 20th. The Alaska Weather TV show will air at 6:30 p.m. instead of 7:30. That'll be each day on K2 or KTOO 360 TV. So just make note of that change coming up here shortly. Well, on the river breakup map today, we continue to see the rivers opening up across especially southern half of the state, and we continue to have a aerial flood advisory along the Kuskokwim River at AKwx, where there's some ice jams reported causing some minor flooding because we have the snow melt along with the broken ice, and the higher water levels are contributing to allowing those ice jams to form. At this point, no major flooding, just some minor flooding, but if you see something more substantial, please let us know. And if you look downstream in the lower left of your screen, you'll see an area highlighted in blue, which includes the Kuskokwim Delta, essentially from Bethel on down toward the mouth of the river. We have a flood watch that is in effect through Sunday morning as all of that ice and higher water is working its way downstream. We do anticipate some minor flooding in the lower end of the Kuskokwim River as we go through this weekend. And as always, we need your help. We appreciate spotter reports. If you have any pictures or videos on the ground or in the air, if you happen to be flying over, and you can submit your reports to nws.ar.aprfc@noaa.gov or call at 1-800-847-1739. And that's the hydrology desk there for the River Forecast Center. If you see something more unusual or substantial, because that helps our forecasters make some decisions regarding their forecast as well as the need to issue any additional watches, advisories, or warnings. Well, on the weather satellite here this Thursday late afternoon, we are looking at a lot of cloud cover across the southeast. It's lifting northward up into south central areas up to just south of the Yukon River, and beneath these clouds there have been scattered light rain showers, some light snow showers in the higher elevations and mountains, and that will be the trend that continues. Along the Arctic coast, continue to be low cloudiness, some fog, a few flurries, and high pressure remains situated north of the Arctic coast over the Arctic Ocean. Meanwhile, off toward the south and west, we have one occluded front lifting through the Alaska Peninsula now around Sandy Point back to just south of St. Paul. A couple areas of low pressure spinning around there are going to just kind of pinwheel and pivot around as we head through tonight into the day tomorrow. So we'll see another frontal system working through those areas. Overall, somewhat unsettled weather we can expect tomorrow and into the weekend, but precipitation-wise, generally on the light side, especially when it comes to the mainland and the interior. But now as we take one more shot of that, looking at the Gulf of Alaska, you can see some of the enhanced cloud tops, or a little better rain falling there out over the open waters. And as we head northward up toward Northway Fairbanks, there are some scattered light showers in the vicinity with additional rain back there down toward the southwest portion of the state, extending out into the Aleutian chain. And as I said, this pattern is just going to kind of persist here as we head over the next week or so, where the southern half of the state will likely experience a little above normal precipitation, but nothing especially heavy. So on today's late afternoon, early evening weather map for this Thursday, we are seeing an area of low pressure pushing an occluded front up into the southeast coast. Meanwhile, interior areas are seeing a mix of some light rain showers in the valleys and some light snow showers in the mountains. Low clouds, some freezing fog, and a few flurries continuing along the Arctic coast. Also some fog out there south of the Bering Strait down around St. Lawrence and off the west coast. And then also as we get down into the Aleutian chain, there's that area of low pressure that's kind of pinwheeling. Another low is going to rotate up from the south later tonight into the day on Friday and generally gradually weaken. Meanwhile, you can see that kind of trough of low pressure weakening and remaining over south central areas as the low along the southeast coast continues to weaken. And during the day on Friday, we look for those lows lifting northward, pulling back from the southeast coast up into the southeast of the mainland, and just kind of being there, providing some instability for some additional light rain and light snow showers to pop up. Again, the snow would be confined to the higher elevations, particularly the mountains. And then down there along the southwest peninsula, Kodiak Island, back toward the west and south into the Aleutians, some light rain associated with a couple areas of weakening low pressure. And then going into Saturday, still that area of weak low pressure in the far east, trough low pressure bisecting the state into northwest Canada with some scattered light rain showers here early in the weekend. Perhaps a few flurries and still some fog there along the Arctic coast. Meanwhile, the one low lifts upward into the South Peninsula just west of Kodiak Island and weakening, but also having some bands of light rain with that extending back toward the Aleutian chain. And looking at temperatures, lows tonight will generally be down into the low 40s across the southeast areas, and then back through the southeast interior. Everybody generally staying above freezing tonight, except for farther north and west. Lows including Talkeetna 39 along the coast of the Kenai down toward Kodiak. We're looking at 34 degrees for a low, just a couple degrees above freezing. Back up into the 50s tomorrow, as warm as 58 degrees at McGrath, at Talkeetna, and I'm at McGrath, 56 at Talkeetna, 59 at Glen Allen, 55 down there around King Salmon. And along the coast, highs generally in the 40s to near 50 from Haines and Juneau down toward Ketchikan. And then on Saturday morning, look for lows around or just above 40 in the southeast, generally a little above freezing interior of the southeast, and generally mid-30s to near 40 degrees south central coast down to Kodiak Island. Highs on Saturday could be up near 60 degrees at Talkeetna. Elsewhere, generally in the 50s, 40s though across the waterways of the southeast. And along the Arctic coast, lows tonight around 10 above. Along the Yukon River, we're looking for lows upper 20s around 30 degrees. And then highs for Friday afternoon will stay below freezing in the 20s, mid-20s there along the Arctic coast, but 40s and 50s along the Yukon River Valley with potentially up near 60 at Fairbanks. And then for Saturday, we are looking at temperatures around or a little above 10 above, lower teens Saturday morning, with low temperatures in the 20s to lower 30s across the Yukon River Valley there, across the interior, with highs remaining below freezing along the Arctic coast, and generally in the 50s along the Yukon River, in a few areas a little bit warmer than that, as warm as 61 forecast for Fairbanks. Extending out into the southwest then for Friday morning, we are looking for lows in some areas to get down a little below freezing, especially as we get on over toward, looks like Iliamna could still hold up about 36, but areas back toward the Kuskokwim and Yukon rivers in the interior could be near freezing. Elsewhere along the peninsula, lows generally in the upper 30s. And as we go through the Friday afternoon, the interior river valleys will generally warm into the 50s. Coastal areas will remain in the 40s, not only along the west coast, but also extending out along the southwest peninsula into the Aleutian chain. And then lows Saturday morning will generally be into the mid and upper 30s. And as we go into the day on Saturday, temperatures will be into the 50s, again along the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers, especially working up those basins, working toward the interior. As we get down along the southwest peninsula, we are looking for temperatures to be remain in the 40s, especially as we head out toward On Alaska, Cold Bay, highs of 46 and 47, with highs out across the Aleutians generally in the 40s. Quick check of the temperature outlook as we go through mid-May, from May 12th through the 16th. We are anticipating above normal temperatures generally across much of the state, especially shifting up there through the west central coast areas. And then as we look at precipitation, we are anticipate precipitation to average a little bit above normal, particularly there in the southwest around the YK deltas. So that does it as far as taking a look at a broad perspective, pretty much a continuation of the type of weather we've had here heading into the following week, with maybe a little warmer temperatures.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
It's time for aviation weather, and for your planning purposes, here is the flying weather for Friday into Saturday. We do anticipate IFR conditions along the Arctic coast, also a band of IFR conditions out over the Gulf of Alaska and also along portions of the west coast, extending along the tip of the Alaska Peninsula into the Bering and the central and eastern Aleutians. For Friday afternoon, though, still pockets of IFR along the Brooks Range and North Slope, as well as in areas of the southeast around Yakutat and Chilkoot and White Passes. And then as we head back through the west out over the Bering and along the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, extending down through the eastern and central Aleutians. And for Saturday morning, more widespread IFR conditions from the north central Yukon Valley across Brooks Range to the Arctic coast. Also areas of the southeast into south central areas near Prince William Sound and Portage Pass. Also down along Kodiak Island and the southwest peninsula, areas of the west from the Seward Peninsula, the YK deltas, on into the Bering Sea and much of the Aleutians. IFR conditions linger there along the Brooks Range and the North Slope. Also portions of the southeast, as well as along the Kenai, and then back out along just off the west coast into the Bering and across the central and eastern Aleutians. Past conditions on Friday, Anaktuvuk will see VFR conditions become MVFR, with less desirable conditions the farther north you go down the North Slope toward the Arctic coast. And that'll also be the case at Atigan, VFR to MVFR conditions. And then dropping south and westward Lake and Clark, we are looking for MVFR conditions at both Lake Clark and Merrill. And also, as we round up to the north, Rainy Pass MVFR. Areas going a little north and east there, Windy Pass VFR to MVFR. And we also expect Isabel, as well as Mentasta and Tanita passes to see visual flight rules become MVFR by afternoon. And in the Portage vicinity, MVFR conditions should hold throughout the day Friday. Meanwhile, in the southeast, Chilkoot and White will be socked in IFR conditions throughout the day. And a quick check of freezing levels. Across the interior, generally around or just over 4,000 feet, with 6,000 feet plus there in the lower Yukon territories in northwest Canada. And then along the Alaska Peninsula, freezing levels around 2,000 feet, but rising to 4,000 and 6,000 feet along a frontal system there in the North Pacific. Icing potential for the interior areas and south central above 5,000 feet, as there will be some scattered light showers around. Also, some showers will be in the southeast. Between 5,000 and 15,000 feet will be icing potential, and then out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutian chain and the western portion of the Alaska Peninsula, generally above 4,000 feet. Jet stream level winds. We have stronger winds upwards of 100 knots moving across Vancouver Island, exiting the southeast. The interior, few areas there from south central into east central could see southwest to south winds to 50, 55 knots. And then off the west coast in the eastern Bering, winds upwards to 60 knots from the southeast, also just off of the Kodiak Island. Then dropping down to 10,000 feet, or 9,000 feet rather, mid-levels. We're looking at along the Alaska Peninsula, southeast winds upwards to 40 knots, and then curling back around that low pressure system circulation that's over the eastern Aleutians. On the backside of that, we could see some northeast winds of 30 to 35 knots. And then bringing it down to the 3,000 foot level. In the northwest, easterly winds there, upwards to 40 knots. Otherwise, double barrel low pressure at 3,000 feet. The circulations around that could bring in some 50-knot winds at the 3,000-foot level across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island. And then rounding the circulation on the backside of it, turning more to the north and northeast, they are in through the central and western portion of the Aleutians, upwards to 30 knots. And a quick check of turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet in the northwest, generally a surface to 5,000 feet along and north of the Yukon River in the interior, and surface to 4,000 feet across the southwest and Kodiak Island. Looking toward the east, surface to 6,000 feet turbulence possible there in the southeast and inner waterways, and then surface to 3,000 feet toward the western Aleutians. And that does it for your flight weather, and as always, we ask that you check the latest forecast and conditions before heading out. Certainly, have a safe flight and great weekend.
Greetings, fellow stargazers. This week, Halley's Comet provides us the gift of a speedy meteor shower. To find it, you'll have to get up early or stay up late. It'll be best around 4 a.m. later in the week. Grab some very warm clothes and hit the dark 30 minutes early to get your night vision and face east. If you're having trouble, Jupiter will be right here to help orient you. The Eta Aquariids appear to emanate from Aquarius. He's hard to see IRL because he's so dim, but with the magic of TV, you can see him here. The meteors seem to come from his water jar. These meteors are called Earth grazers because they make long streaks that seem to come from the horizon itself. The streaks are bit of ice and rock shed by famous Halley's Comet, which passes every 76 years. Next time in 2061, keep looking up.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Santa with the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center, here to deliver your May 6, 2021 Alaska Breakup Outlook. As of now, we are seeing active breakup on the Kuskokwim and Tanana rivers, and we are encouraging everyone to be flood ready and aware of their local emergency plans. This is the most up-to-date information we have, but keep in mind things are actively changing. There are three main components we use to evaluate breakup severity and timing. First, ice thickness and strength. Second, snowpack. Third and most important are the spring weather patterns. Temperatures in late April and early May control snowmelt rate, thermal condition, and integrity of the ice, which helps us figure out what kind of breakup might occur and when. There are two types of breakup: mechanical, where ice jams are likely, or thermal, where the ice just melts in place. The totals of snow water equivalent, or the amount of meltwater that comes out of a snowpack, are generally above average for this time of year. This tells us there is still potentially a lot of water that is going to be flowing into these watersheds, and that there is an increased risk of flooding due to snowmelt. For example, we especially want to keep an eye on the upper Yukon Basin and the headwaters for the Yukon River because there's still a lot of snow left to melt. Our 6 to 10 day forecast is showing air temperatures likely to be above normal throughout the state, and our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook is also showing temperatures likely to stay above normal throughout the state. So far in 2021, we are seeing a trend towards a mechanical breakup on Alaska's major rivers. This means that there is potential for ice jams. However, most breakups are a blend between mechanical and thermal. Flood potential on the Kuskokwim and the upper Yukon is above average due to the above average snowpack. Flood potential on the North Slope and the Koyukuk rivers is below average, and the rest of the state is about average. As a reminder, the National Weather Service has three types of flood statements: flood warning, flood watch, and flood advisory. A flood warning tells you that a flood is on its way or already happening. In that case, you should grab your emergency kit, listen to local officials, and seek higher ground. A flood watch tells you to be prepared, have that emergency bag on hand and ready to go. We recommend that you have enough food, water, and medication for yourself, your family, and your pets for at least 3 days. And be waiting for any alerts from local officials. A flood advisory just means to be aware. River conditions are changing. This is a great time to read and understand your local emergency plan and have your emergency bag packed and ready to go. As of this morning, we've got open water near Bristol Bay and Stony River. The Copper River, Susitna River, Kuskokwim, and the Tanana all have a mix of some open, mostly open, and ice. And there's a flood watch on the Kuskokwim between Kalskag and Bethel, and a flood advisory for Aniak. Keep in mind that even when rivers are labeled mostly open or open, it is still possible for ice and debris to move through the river as upstream headwaters break up. So always use caution when navigating the rivers. River Watch is underway, and our teams have been taking to the skies all week long to help keep our maps totally up to date. This past week, we've had flights over the Upper Yukon and the Kuskokwim. As of yesterday afternoon flights, the Kuskokwim has an ice jam at Birch Crossing, which is resulting in minor flooding for Aniak. Ice between Kalskag and AKwx has not moved much. Below AKwx has not yet moved at all. Information and photos from these flights can be found here at weather.gov/APRFC/geophoto. Our team flew from Circle to the 40-mile river over the Yukon River, and we've seen no major pushes so far, but almost all tributaries are open with ice flushing out. Ice on the Yukon is continuing to decay in place with some water ponding on top, and pressure ridges are starting to form. However, ice in Dawson has started to break up as of this morning. Again, all photos from these flights can be found at weather.gov/APRFC/geophoto. And to find all the other great products we put out here at the River Forecast Center, check out these links for the main breakup map and outlook. Plus, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at NWSAPRFC and Facebook, U.S. National Weather Service Alaska. Last but not least, we need you to submit river observations from your local area. Email us at nws.ar.aprfc@noaa.gov or give us a call at 907-266-5160 or 1-800-847-1739. Or you can always submit an observation on our website. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to the marine weather segment of our show, and today's sea ice edge continues to be out there across the northern Bering, extending down to Nunavik Island and off the Kuskokwim Delta there. And as we are watching, the sea ice will have a tendency to drift still back toward the southwest as we develop some northeasterly winds the next couple of days as low pressure passes up through the eastern Aleutians and up along the southwest peninsula. And we expect the ice to continue to break up. The extended forecast, as I mentioned earlier, is calling for temperatures to average above normal here as we head through mid-May. So in the marine forecast on Friday, inner waterways of the southeast will see winds southeast to south 10 to as much as 20 knots with waves generally a couple of feet, though it could be as high as 6-7 feet. The Dixon entrance there. And areas along the coast, the Gulf of Alaska, anywhere from 15 to 20 knots from the west south of Sitka, but as we get up toward Gustavus to west of Yakutat, out of the south at 10 knots and waves swells around 7 feet. Saturday, we'll see southeast winds, inner waterways 10 to 20 knots, waves generally a few feet. But again, out on the more toward the shoreline coastal areas of the Gulf, winds will pick up southeasterly at around 25 knots with swells around 9 feet. For south central areas on Friday, wind components will generally be from the southeast with the exception of Prince William Sound northeasterly 10 knots, waves a couple of feet. But as you get down there off of the Kenai and northeast of Kodiak and the mouth of Cook Inlet, look for east-southeast winds 15 to 20 knots and swells around 5 feet. On Saturday, more of northeasterly to easterly winds will develop 15 to 20 knots, the northern areas. Prince William Sound 2-footers, but as we get down to off of Kodiak Island and south of the Kenai, we could see easterly winds of 25 to 30 knots and swells 6 to 9 feet. Across the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, we are looking for easterly winds upwards to 30 knots on the Pacific side with swells of 8 or 9 feet, and on the Bering side, 4 to 7 foot waves. And going into Saturday's occluded front tries to lift northward, we will see winds generally from the south and southeast, though there could be some funneling initially there between Kodiak Island and the mainland with 30-knot northeast winds with 8-foot waves. Areas of the south also could see some 10-foot swells, especially as we get down towards Sandpoint and False Pass. The Aleutians will initially start out on the eastern half with east-northeast winds ahead of an area of low pressure that's lifting northward on the backside. Winds go northerly and swells generally on the Pacific side, and in the west about 9 feet, 5 to 7 feet on the Bering side. And then on Saturday, as the low pressure lifts between Atka and Nikolsky, we are looking for winds ahead of it to be southerly at 20 knots, but on the backside turning to the north-northwest at 15 to 20 knots and swells generally around 6 feet or so. Across the ice in through west coast areas, northeast winds 20 knots, so that'll help to push the ice a little bit back toward the southwest early in the weekend. St. Paul and St. George, easterly winds 25 knots, 8-footers. And then as we go through Saturday, still a northeasterly flow there over the ice, east to northeast about 20 knots, and 25 to 20 knot winds from the east with waves 6 to 8 feet over the open waters. Along the Arctic coast, we'll see easterly winds up to 25 knots. Areas along the northwest coast, Point Hope on up toward Wainwright, could see easterly winds upwards to 30 knots, and then down toward the Seward Peninsula, northeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots. And on Saturday, look for easterly winds 25 to 30 knots along the Arctic coast, and generally from the east there, 25 to 30 knots as well down to Cape Lisburne, and out of the north-northeast 15 to 20 knots as we round the Seward Peninsula. And quick check of Friday's weather map, weak low pressure over the interior, but those two lows rotating up through the southwest. They will continue to lift to the north and northeast as we go through Saturday, creating the northeasterly winds over the west coast. And out ahead of it, then areas of rain, and we're looking for temperatures to be fairly seasonable for this time of year. One final reminder, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you watching on KTOO 360 TV, only you guys, starting May 20th, the Alaska Weather TV show will air at 6:30 p.m. instead of 7:30, and that'll be from then onward, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and again, join us again tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.